If you live in the Sonoran Desert, you know that our summer monsoons can be pretty intense, usually yielding more water than we might be prepared to handle, and then leaving us scarce during the drier months. There's nothing that resonates more with me than enjoying the fruits of our yearly monsoon with family and friends, and wanting to save that water for my yard, especially given the challenges we're now facing with climate change. So I started using recycled containers to store rainwater collected from one of my scuppers. This was my first attempt at developing an active system for rainwater harvesting, and I've since learned a few things over the last couple years. First, using these clear barrels can lead to algae growth, which hasn't really been a problem, but some might think it's unsightly. In response, I've painted my barrels blue. This eliminated the algae, but there are other improvements I could make. For example, I don't have a good system for opening my barrels. I have to be home during the monsoon to manually open them in order to avoid issues with mosquitoes. Second, my system can get overwhelmed pretty easily, so I've had to add 2 more barrels for added storage. Obviously, it would make more sense if everything was Daisychain together. In this video, I'll go over some additional improvements I've made in this system to realize a more efficient and user-friendly setup. And the problem I've had is during the monsoon, I get so much water coming out of that scupper that I just can't keep up with it. And this barrel will start to overflow more quickly than it can fill in the 2 adjacent barrels because of the diameter of this tubing. Just can't keep up with the flow. What I've done is picked up a couple of these 1.5-inch bulkhead fittings, and I bought 3 of them. They were kind of pricey. They were $10 each, but I'm hoping that by using a wider diameter bulkhead to Daisychain into these 3 tanks, I'll be able to keep up with the capacity of the intense summer monsoons when I get water coming off that scupper right there. These are threaded and do fit in these bungs, but they're really hard to tighten when you get about halfway through. So I'm just going to drill a new hole in each one of these and Daisychain them accordingly. These are also going to be Daisychained to these other 2 barrels that I have right here. So that's going to be what, 5 times 55, 275 gallons. And you can see I've got all my old fittings, which I hope to reuse. So that's going to be my drainage. And then I've got this one right here. This is going to be my on-off to basically turn on these other two barrels. And I'll have another drainage out of this one just for grins, just because I've got these old fittings and this old PVC. So all this piping and everything will actually be underneath these stands when I flip these barrels upside down. Kind of stinky. And I just cut the top of this one off with a jigsaw. And I think the first time I did this, I cut along this line right here all the way around. And that was a bad idea because the tank had a lot of trouble holding its form when it was full. It just kind of wanted to become elongated from the water pressure. So by cutting it and leaving this lip around the opening right here, which is probably about, I'm guessing, 3 inches, 2.5, 3 inches. That gives the tank more integrity to hold up from the water pressure so it doesn't deform when it fills up. Okay, folks, so all the barrels are back on the stands. They're all daisy chained together. So I've got this T-valve coming off the main barrel collecting water right there. It's going to fill this barrel over here as well as that barrel over there. And I've also got a ball valve right here so that I can empty these first 3 barrels, which are tied together. And then I've got this little ball valve right here, because once all 5 barrels are filled up, I can close it, and then I can empty up these 3 barrels. And I'll still have storage in these 2, but I'll use my water off these 3 so that they can be filled up off my scupper once again. Looks like the Catalinas are getting pounded. Look at that. All 5 barrels are filled up to about here. So I'll have to calculate what that is a little bit later, but let's look at the final tally on the rainfall. Final tally looks to be just about 7/10 of an inch, just under. So not bad. 7/10 yielded definitely over 200 gallons over there, so I'll take it. And just as I expected, the tipping bucket rain gauge that I've got set up outside registered about 20% less rain than actually fell, because those tipping buckets just can't keep up. So for now, I went ahead and I put this little homemade lid on that has a screen attached to it, so that if I'm away and it rains, I can still get water inside the barrel. And at the same time, I don't have to worry about mosquitoes populating inside that barrel. So I've got a lid for that other one off on the side where this was originally located, and we'll take it from there. So it'll be real interesting to see how humidity, temperature, and barometric pressure changed in response to this little storm that we had. And it's still raining a little bit out here, but I'll be interested in seeing how the evening temperatures respond to this rain compared to the last few days where we haven't had any rain. So I've been checking the bulkheads and all the fittings, and I do have a little bit of a leak right here. Actually, it's a pretty big leak, but I'm not too worried about it, because in a few days I'll get like a microbial slime that will kind of seal things up for me naturally. So I'm just going to leave this alone, collect the water. That's what's been collecting all night long. And just not worry about it. Keep an eye on it, and that's the way we'll deal with it. And one thing I want to do is use that water, because what will happen is I'll get another storm, and if I don't use it, all that capacity is just going to cause the water to overflow out of the tanks. So this little bottle brush is looking a little sad, like it could use a little bit of water, so let's help it out.